Have you ever wondered why this church has been seen so many times by famous people and celebrities in the news or on movies? No, it's not because it's conveniently located next to Fifth Avenue or just down the road from many of the famous locations for celebrities. It's not even because it's a tourist attraction. It's a lot deeper than that. And I want to share something with you that you've probably been missing for quite some time. So stay with me. This church is a very famous church, not just because it's a tourist attraction and in New York City. It's actually famous because of Norman Vincent Peale. If you don't know who that is, more on that in just a second. But this is the Marble Collegiate Church. It's located right near Fifth Avenue, right on 29th Street. Actually, 1 West and 29th Street. And this is a historic site, not just for tourists and celebrities, but again, for Norman Vincent Peale. And if you haven't read his book, one of the most powerful books called The Power of Positive Thinking, he was a senior pastor here, and he not only preached that message, but he taught that message in so many other places. And that book was one of the most powerful books I read at a very young age, and it completely changed my life. Now, if you're wondering, why do so many celebrities and artists or famous people actually go to this church to have their weddings? It's because of the power behind the message. Of course, they could go anywhere. They could actually get out of New York, right? They could actually go to different places. But the reality is the impact that that message has had on so many people and changed their lives, helping their dreams become a reality, is because of that message. If you want to learn more about this message, I highly encourage you check out Norman Vincent Peale's Positive Thinking about works and wonders from 1987 in the Crystal Cathedral, which is actually one of the videos that I watched many years after reading his book. This video also changed my life. I'll put that link in the below on this description, so you can also check it out too. But listen, one of the things I want you to understand is to listen with an open mind and an open heart. Back when I was starting to read a lot of personal development books, I'd start reading them in cafes. I'd wake up in the morning, every morning at 4 a.m., get out and go deliver my newspapers, and I'd end right around 7 a.m. And then I would get to the cafe for about an hour and a half, and I would read. And most importantly, I think not only was the reading, but my attitude towards the reading. I would like to say today I was probably one of the most gulliblest people, meaning I believed what I read. And I just thank God that actually the books that I was reading were some of the most life-changing books that most people read typically when they're over the age of 40 and they're looking for direction and wondering why their life is not going the way they want it to be. I'm just so grateful that I was introduced to this material at a very young age. That material that I was so gullible about reading was one of these books, The Power of Positive Thinking. I highly recommend you reading this book. I also highly recommend another book called Thoughts Are Things. Be careful what you choose for. Choose them wisely. It's by Michael Dudley, I think it is. I learned about, met him through Toastmasters many, many years ago. And that's one thing I want you to realize and understand that can be so very powerful in your life is that and I'm not talking about, the law of attraction at the moment, and I'm talking about this put your thoughts out there, it will come to you eventually, and I'm not talking about that. I'm actually just thinking what you truly think about, you will bring about. You will actually attract these things into your mind. Let me give you a quick example that just happened to me, that I just shared this with my friend Daphne just the other day. So for some reason, on my mind in the past just few weeks, I've been thinking about importing and exporting businesses. I've started a numerous amount of businesses over the years. I've started educational companies, I started media agencies, real estate companies, consulting companies, and so much more. And sometimes being an entrepreneur, you can actually do too many things at the same time, but sometimes it's just within you that you want to just go solve problems and help people and make some money along the way. So recently I was thinking about this importing and exporting business. Now listen, I think the only thing I've ever imported in my life was through Jumia or Amazon.com, and it gets shipped to my house. That's the only imports I've ever done. But I started getting this itch about going to China and Japan and importing. And there's a lot of importing that comes in from either Dubai, China, Japan into Uganda. And so I started thinking about all these things, and I said, what, that'd be pretty cool. Maybe I can get to China by, going there and scouting out the land. I've been watching a few videos on it, and obviously, my phone is listening to me, so these things come up in my feed. And so it was just on my mind for the past, 2 to 3 weeks. Well, ironically, when I walked into the cafe this morning that I typically always do, right before I start my reading, I saw 3 men sitting next to the booth that I normally sit at, and I looked on the table and I saw a few magazines that said exports and importing into Uganda and how to export out of China. Those were the titles I read. Now, if I wasn't in the thought process about importing and exporting, that wouldn't even made sense to me. I wouldn't have even picked up on it. I wouldn't have even cared. However, because my mind was already tuned in to those things, those words were like literally jumping out of the page and like shaking me or hugging me. So I sat down, and all I could do was listen to the conversations that were having behind me. One guy saying he has $300,000, another guy saying he has $150,000, another guy saying, hey, I only have $50,000, but maybe I can donate my time, right? So they were discussing and how they're going to set up their company and how they're going to come together and what they're going to do. And I was just so intrigued that I actually started taking notes while I'm listening to the conversation behind me. And okay, listen, the exporting and importing is besides the point. My point is that when you have a thought in your mind and you have a desire, all of a sudden, it's going to start coming into your life in different ways. Maybe you've heard this before, maybe you haven't, but there is like a mechanism. There is, a piece of our brain called the reticular activating system, also known as RAS. And its only responsibility in life, is to find what you want. That's it. To find what you're attracted to, what you want, and it starts bringing it into your life. You've probably already experienced this. Maybe you didn't even know, but what it does, or let me give you a real example. Think of the car or item or phone or TV, whatever it is, some item that you really want really bad or have wanted in the past. And have you recently seen it pop up somewhere? Have you recently seen it in the same color or maybe a slightly different color that you wanted? Could be a bag, could be, a car, could be a speaker, could be a piece of technology, whatever it may be. But then all of a sudden you start seeing it pop up everywhere. And you're like, oh, there it is, there it is, there it is. Why? The reason why that happens is because your mind, that part of your mind's natural responsibility is to go look for exactly what you want and start bringing it into your life. The only thing that separates you from that thing is, well, most people see a price tag. Most people see money. But there's also other ways to get what you want without even using money. So that's a different topic for a different time. Different topic for a different time. But right now, I just want you to think about this. If you know that's happened to you, if you believe that and you've experienced that things can come into your life just by thinking about it, then let me know. Share your experience in the comments so that way I know. But also, if you don't know or haven't experienced this, then I encourage you to try it and see what happens. Just test it and test the theory and see if that thoughts can really become things. These are some very powerful techniques. It's amazing how the mind works, and it's amazing how we only use 10% of our mind, they say, these scientists say. So go out, try it, and share your experience in the comments below. I'll see you in the next